65 missiles and dozens of drones weren't just launched. They were unleashed. In the dead of night, Israel's skies turned into a battlefield, illuminated not by hope, but by fire and steel. This wasn't a warning. It wasn't a demonstration. It was a calculated act of force meant to shake the very foundation of Israeli security. The world watched in disbelief. But this was not a random eruption. This was a buildup of years of tension, years of silence, and years of boiling pressure, finally exploding into the open. This attack wasn't only about damage. It was about dominance. It was about sending a message so loud, so terrifying, that no translation was needed. Iran and the Houthis didn't aim for negotiations. They aimed for headlines. They aimed for fear. What we witnessed was not just military aggression. It was geopolitical theater with deadly consequences, performed in real time across the skies of the Middle East. This wasn't a military strike in isolation. It was a wake-up call, a call that tells the world the era of restraint is over. The doctrine of deterrence has been challenged head-on. This was not a fringe group acting alone. It was a highly coordinated, high-stakes operation with backing, planning, and a long memory. And make no mistake, when missiles fall, they do not ask who is innocent. They do not ask what time it is. They tear through silence. They rupture peace. And they leave a crater, not just in the ground, but in our global sense of order. This was a strike designed to provoke, to pressure, and to draw lines in blood. The first casualty of this attack was not a soldier. It was the illusion of stability. That fragile belief that somehow this powder keg could be contained with rhetoric, with policy papers, with carefully crafted condemnations. That illusion has been shattered. What's left is a world blinking into the smoke, asking what comes next. What we saw wasn't the beginning of something. It was the culmination, and perhaps, just perhaps, the signal that what's coming next will make this look like the prelude. This was not chaos. This was not some disjointed rebellion. It was coordination, precision, intent. The world is waking up to the reality that Iran and its regional partners are no longer simply threats. They are actors in a unified front with a singular objective: to challenge, to confront, and to shift the power balance of the Middle East once and for all. The Houthis, once dismissed as ragtag insurgents, have now proved they are more than foot soldiers. They are strategic partners in an ideological war. Their technology has evolved. Their tactics have matured. And now, they strike with the confidence of a nation, not a faction. Iran stands at the center of this growing axis, no longer limited by back-channel diplomacy or underground weapons transfers. It now operates with open defiance. Its hand is no longer hidden. It has been revealed in full force, wrapped around the trigger, sending missiles across borders with chilling ease. This is not a one-time act of defiance. This is a redefinition of power, a declaration that the days of unilateral dominance in the Middle East are over. What we are seeing is the rise of an alliance not built on peace, but on shared purpose, on vengeance, on ideology, and most dangerously, on the belief that they can win. And while the West debates sanctions, resolutions, and ceasefires, this axis is preparing for what comes next. They are not interested in diplomacy. They are preparing for dominance. For them, this isn't about negotiations. It's about rewriting the future. The question is no longer who is allied with who. It is whether the world will recognize that a new force has risen, unapologetically, and whether we have the will to confront it before it becomes unstoppable. For years, the Iron Dome has stood as a symbol of Israel's invincibility, a marvel of engineering, a shield that gave millions of civilians a chance to breathe when rockets filled the air. But now, that shield is under siege like never before, with wave after wave of incoming fire. Even the strongest systems begin to feel the pressure. This wasn't a random barrage. It was a saturation strike. The objective was clear: flood the system, overwhelm its capacity, create a breach. This attack was not about precision hits. It was about volume, about timing, about watching a defense system blink under the weight of 1,000 alarms. Even the most advanced technologies have limits. No dome, no algorithm, no radar can promise perfect protection forever. And the moment those limits are exposed, the calculation changes. When enemies sense a crack in your armor, they don't retreat, they press harder. Israel's military resilience is undeniable. But what we're seeing now is not just a test of defense. It's a test of endurance, of preparedness, of political and psychological will. How long can a nation absorb attacks before retaliation becomes inevitable? This moment marks the edge of escalation, because every missile that slips through isn't just a tactical failure. It is a message that the enemy is learning, adapting, and planning its next strike. Faster, smarter, deadlier. And while the Iron Dome fights to hold the line, the real battle may now be shifting from technology to strategy, from defense to response. The question is how long before Israel decides that it can no longer afford to just intercept. It must act. Where is the outrage? Where is the unity? The world has been here before, outraged for a moment, then distracted by the next crisis. But this moment demands more than fleeting attention. It demands moral clarity, because silence now is not neutrality, it is surrender. Global leaders speak in soft tones, issuing cautious statements, hoping the flames will die down on their own. But conflict doesn't dissolve through hesitation. It grows, it festers, it waits for the next opportunity to explode again. And every weak response is read as permission to strike again. Where is the line? When do we say enough? Because if we can't say it now, in the face of coordinated missile strikes on a sovereign nation, when will we? When the attacks reach Europe? When American allies fall one by one? This is a moment for courage, not appeasement, not calculated diplomacy, but decisive, firm, unmistakable resolve. Because those who launch the missiles are watching. And the lesson they are learning is simple. The world won't act. We have seen this pattern before, and history has never been kind to those who watch from the sidelines, waiting for the storm to pass. It never passes, it grows, until it consumes everything. If the world cannot draw the line now, the line will be drawn for us later, in fire, in blood, and in consequences no one can control. This is not someone else's war. Not anymore. When allies are attacked, when borders are violated, when aggression goes unanswered, it's not just their crisis, it's ours. Because every act of unchecked violence chips away at the foundation of global order that the United States helped build. What happens in the Middle East echoes through our economy, our security, our alliances. If we fail to act with resolve, we signal to every adversary that the American deterrent is a myth, that our promises are paper, that our leadership is fading. We must ask ourselves what kind of power we want to be. Do we stand firm only when it's easy, or do we confront the storm, knowing the cost, but unwilling to yield? Because this is one of those moments, one of those rare, pivotal crossroads where history will remember what we did or failed to do. This is not about warmongering. It's about standing for something. It's about saying that you cannot fire missiles at our allies and expect our silence. That aggression will meet consequence. That leadership means drawing lines and standing by them. The world is watching, and so are our enemies. They are measuring our response. They are weighing our silence. If we don't rise to this moment, we may find ourselves unprepared for the next one. The world has changed, and we can no longer pretend otherwise. The rules we thought governed international relations have been torched. What replaces them will be decided not by intentions, but by action. This is the beginning of a new chapter, one written in real time by those bold enough to shape it. The future won't be inherited. It will be claimed, and those who are ready, who are willing to face the fire, will decide what that future looks like. The ones who hesitate will be left behind, drowning in their own uncertainty, while the world moves forward without them. We must rise, not react. Rise with clarity, with resolve, with the courage to do what is necessary, even when it is not popular. Because the path ahead will not be easy, but it is ours to walk. And the weight of it demands more than words. It demands conviction. This is not just about missiles. It is about the soul of international order. About whether we believe in a world where force is met with resistance, where justice matters, and where nations do not stand alone in the face of terror. The time for comfort is over. The time for clarity has arrived. What happens next will shape generations, and only the brave will lead it.